So if you're working a full-time job and you're trying to conquer the OSCP certification, you'll already know the big challenge, right? How do you actually put in the hours you need without completely burning out? Well, today we're going to break down a proven no-burnout plan that is all about consistency over intensity. Let's get right into it. Let's start with the core idea, because this isn't just some friendly tip. The source material is really clear on this. This is an essential survival strategy. The goal here isn't just to study. It's to build a system that actually protects your energy, your time, and let's be honest, your sanity, while you prep for one of the toughest exams out there. And this really brings us to the two paths you can take. Over on the left, you've got the weekend warrior. We've all been there. You cram for 6, maybe 8 hours on a Saturday, and yeah, it feels productive, but what really happens? You end up with sloppy notes, you forget the commands you just learned, and you head straight for burnout. But on the right, you've got the daily practitioner, and that's the path we're talking about today. Someone who makes steady, consistent progress, builds really strong recall, and just avoids that crash altogether. Let's talk a little more about this trap because it is so easy to fall into. You finish a long work week and you think the only way to catch up is with a marathon session. But the argument here is that this approach actually costs you time in the long run. Why? Because you're constantly fighting just to remember what you did last weekend. Now, the secret sauce that makes this whole 2-hour plan actually work is this concept right here: deliberate practice. This isn't just about putting in the time. It's about making that time purposeful and systematic. Every single minute has a goal. Think of it like this. It's the difference between mindlessly shooting hoops and running specific drills to actually improve your free throw percentage. And that leads us to the foundational philosophy of this entire system. When your brain is already fried from a full-time job, consistency is always going to be brute force intensity. It's about building momentum, brick by brick, day by day. 2 hours a day might not sound like a crazy amount, but look at what it adds up to. 10 hours of highly focused, deliberate practice every single week. What's so interesting here is how it reframes the whole commitment. This isn't some small effort. It's a really significant and, more importantly, sustainable weekly investment in your skills. So why is this so effective? Well, first, like we said, consistency just wins when you're already fatigued. Second, it really reduces that mental startup cost of switching from your day job to study mode. And this is critical. These daily reps turn your tools and commands into muscle memory, into reflexes. The source uses this brilliant analogy. Treat it like a gym plan. You're not trying to ego lift a massive weight once a week. You're doing small sets with perfect form every single day. Okay, so we've covered the why. Let's get into the how. Let's see how this all builds into what the source calls the 2-hour flywheel, a self-reinforcing system that you can literally start using right away. And here it is, the minute-by-minute template. You start with a quick 10-minute review to just wake up what you learned yesterday. Then, 25 minutes purely on enumeration. No exploiting, just enum. The main block is 45 minutes for that exploit attempt. You follow that with 25 minutes of privilege escalation drills. But, and this is key, the most crucial part might be the last one: 15 minutes to document your path and plan out tomorrow's session. This quote just nails why that final 15-minute block is so powerful. The author had a simple rule. If they couldn't explain their attack path in 5 simple bullet points, they hadn't truly understood it. This documentation close forces you to convert those short-term actions into real, long-term knowledge. Now, to keep you from just drifting into your comfort zone, this daily practice fits into a weekly rotation. You can see it here: dedicated days for Linux, Windows, and a touchpoint for Active Directory. Thursday is a mixed day to simulate that uncertainty, and Friday is all about reporting and recall. And notice, Sunday is a dedicated rest day. This isn't random. It's a super structured approach to make sure you cover all the high-leverage skills. Look, a plan is only good if you can actually stick to it. This whole system is designed from the ground up to be realistic and human-centered. So let's look at the specific rules for making it completely burnout-proof. The big takeaway here is that recovery isn't a break from the plan. Recovery is the plan. These rules are non-negotiable. Protect your sleep. Take short stretch breaks. That guilt-free rest day we saw on the schedule, yeah, that's mandatory. And that last one is so key. If you miss a day, just get back to it the next. Don't let one small stumble derail your entire week. This is what's called the energy rule, and it is probably one of the most practical pieces of advice in the whole breakdown. On those days when you are just completely drained from work, don't try to force a full 2 hours. Just do 45 minutes of review and call it a win. Seriously, this flexibility is what saves your momentum in the long run. It's about being strategic, not about feeling like a failure. All right, so you're following the plan, you're avoiding burnout. Awesome. But how do you know you're actually getting ready for the exam? Let's look at the clear, measurable signals that show your skills are really coming together. First, a really simple metric. If you're tracking your time and you see you're consistently hitting 600 to 750 minutes of deliberate practice each week, you are in what the source calls the steady OSCP growth zone. That's your target. That's the sweet spot for sustainable, meaningful progress.
But it's not just about the time, right? It's about the skills. So here are the signals. Are you reliably popping 2 medium boxes a week? Has your enumeration checklist become second nature? Can you document your attack path in those 5 bullet points we talked about? And maybe most importantly, are you noticing that the time you spend just feeling stuck is actually getting shorter? These are the real indicators that you're ready.
When those signals are all flashing green, it's time for the final push. The last month isn't about learning new tools, it's about building your exam stamina. You can see the progression right here. You start with a 4-hour mock exam 4 weeks out, and then you just escalate the length each week. The final week is all about light review and hitting some confidence boxes just to get your mindset right. So it all comes back to this idea of the flywheel. Your daily practice, especially that final 15-minute documentation closeout, is what gives you momentum for the next day. It's a system where every session you do makes the next one faster and more effective. This whole plan isn't about finding more time, it's about making your time really count. So the only question left is, what's your first rotation going to be?